What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's Cryptocopia Live AMA. Cryptocopia is a community focusing on all things cryptocurrency. It's perfect for seasoned vets and for beginners who are new to the space. I'm your host, Michael Cryptocopia. You can find me on Twitter, on Discord at Mike Spellcheck. But today we are joined by COO and founder of Ankr, Ryan Fang. Ankr is a distributed cloud computing project that's taking on the likes of Microsoft Azure and Amazon AWS using blockchain technology. So without further ado, Ryan, I just wanted to know, how are you doing today? How are things on your end?
Good, very good.
Yeah.
The company's been working hard. It's been quite the year. I mean, in terms of market, in terms of what's happening in the space, in terms of internally, we've been evolving and progressing. There's a lot of exciting things going on, and very busy year, very busy time.
And as I understand it, you're in Korea right now, touring and doing a lot of publicity for the project, for a lot of the token listings that you're in the middle of. Yeah.
I'm currently traveling in Asia. Ankr is based in San Fran, but our slogan is a world powered by us. So we truly want to get some more partners in different continents across the globe.
Hey, could you just do me a quick favor? I don't know if you have headphones laying around, or if you could turn the volume down a little bit. I think there's some echo from the audio playing out.
Is it okay if I just move closer? I don't have a headphone with me right now.
That's right. I even just the volume knob, if you could hit the volume down a few notches, I think that should help. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about SETI at home. I think it's one of the more interesting partnerships that I've seen in crypto. So SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, has a very wide distributed computing crowdsource project. And as I understand it, you've partnered with SETI, and you're planning to use the framework that you're building as a really good, support for the case study of SETI, taking all these radio broadcasts that we're sending into outer space and actually, using that data and looking for extraterrestrial life. I was just wondering how that partnership started, and if you could talk about what you guys have gained from working with Berkeley and the SETI project.
Yeah, so both me and my co-founder Chandler, we both graduated from UC Berkeley. And the SETI at Home's founder, Professor David Anderson, is a professor from Berkeley. So he was lucky and close to us to get to know him. He was the founder of the pretty much the very first large-scale distributed compute platform in the world. And SETI at Home, in the beginning, was sort of used for search for intelligence, extraterrestrial intelligence program. And now I think more scientists get their job done on the platform. Getting resources from volunteers across the globe. I think this is a very important inspiration and partnership for us, because essentially for SETI at Home and for BOINC, which stands for Berkeley Open Infrastructure Network Computing, for both of the projects, they've been staying nonprofit, and all the model is essentially all the computing power are basically contributed for free by everyday people, or by people who are just enthusiastic about the course. But we sort of Ankr strive to take it to the next level, which means we want to use personal or even enterprise level idle resources to power a distributed cloud that is actually that is not just totally volunteer based. Let's say let's say, for example, if you drive Uber for free, yes, some people are going to do it, right? But there are a lot of people are only going to do Uber if they get paid on this stuff, right? Same thing with, some people might be willing to like rent their house for free, maybe for a day or two for like random people. But most people will be more willing to take on sort of the Airbnb model. Like without the trusted execution environment technology, without sort of newer technology that Ankr and other companies are using, it is almost impossible for a framework for the compute network to essentially leverage people's compute power and have like an accurate way and having them get paid accordingly, right? So before, it can only be a volunteer-based project, which is, let's say 1,000 people have computers, 1,000 people contribute, and a couple of scientists get their work done, and it is all volunteer-based. But right now, with the new technologies, Anchors mainly use Kubernetes, Docker, and trusted execution environments, and all those technologies. So essentially, we'll be able to let people also get paid, from the work they do for either scientists or companies. And in fact, what we see is like a big demand for cheaper cloud computing for let's say image rendering, for machine learning, AR VR stuff. So that's why where we see the need for Ankr, and that's why we started it.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, that's really interesting because it really speaks to a lot of the economic incentives that are being shared within these really wide-reaching decentralized frameworks. I mean, before you could organize a group of thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people around a blockchain and around the economic incentive of a crypto token, a cryptocurrency, you really couldn't incentivize people beyond, hey, we're all trying to do something great here. Do you want to help, and do you want to volunteer your time? So could you actually tell us just a little bit about how you met, Chandler and the other founders, and how you all started working on Ankr together?
Yeah, it's actually quite wild ride. Chandler and I, we were college roommates for 4 years. Back in 2014. I'm actually not a computer science guy. I don't code. Well, I code like R. I'm a statistics major. Whenever I was in Berkeley. But I don't do the C++ and Python and stuff. So Chandler is the developer. First kind of came up with this idea. Back in 2014, when I first met Chandler, he's like the second or third person I met when I come to Berkeley, and he was like, oh, do you want to buy some of this Bitcoin? And I'm like, I'm not too sure what it is. He seems like a nice guy, trustworthy kind of. So if he give me some investment advices. I did bought 20 Bitcoin. That was back when Bitcoin was 492. We clearly remember the number, $492 a piece. I think he bought like 5. I was very trusting him, so I actually bought more. But that's actually our sort of seed money, ourselves, how we get started. Ourselves, we were able to in the beginning hire some outside people to kind of work with us together. And obviously later on we see venture funding led by Pantera, DHVC, New Global Capital. Those are our 3 main investors. And Stanley, our CTO, was actually Chandler's super manager when Chandler was working at Amazon AWS. He was sort of a manager's manager of Chandler, but I guess Chandler did a good job whenever he was there. And Stanley was one of the first 20 people in AWS. So he sort of witnessed the whole growth of cloud since 2007, 2006 even. And he also led the Alexa project, Alexa ranking, all of this stuff. So he was also the sort of lead on that. So we sort of convinced him to quit his job to start this journey with us, and a couple of other guys. It's an interesting team. We clearly know that we are quite young. Chandler and I were young, so we try pretty hard to get more experienced guys like Song Liu, like Como, people who've been in the security space, in the computing IoT space for a long time, so that we have like a solid sort of, technology, and also I guess young founders are more enthusiastic, more energetic. I can don't sleep for a couple of days, right? That's how we get started. And I guess the inspiration of starting Ankr is that I was a stats student, and there was a month I spent $2,000 on AWS doing like class projects, kind of. It's actually quite ridiculous for a college student. I always thought this is kind of too expensive for some of the machine learning stuff, and I was going to be a banker. So I look at some of the valuation. If you look at it, cloud computing really has been a very, very lucrative or highly valued space in terms of multiples. That's why we kind of think, oh, okay, maybe this piece of technology can revolutionize blockchain, can revolutionize the cloud space. And that's why we did start to do research into it. Chandler was obviously Chandler probably was a lot more familiar with the blockchain technology before than I am. I'm sort of in the beginning just helping him, and later on we were able to get more support from more developers, from more venture funds. That's how Ankr started, and how we've been growing to today.
Okay. Hey, Ryan, could you do me a quick favor? And I don't know if you're able to turn the vibration off on your phone. I think we're getting, just some quick like vibrate notifications over the audio.
Okay,
So
turn off.
I noticed that. All right, thanks. Actually, oh yeah, perfect. Thank you. So Chandler and Stanley actually were working at Amazon AWS, and then you guys were able to get them to jump ship and work on the competition.
Yeah. I mean, well, technically, Chandler was just basically interning there for the summer. So he was like a summer intern there, and we graduated early from UC Berkeley. So we graduated, end of 2017. And ever since then, Chandler like, okay, we really need to do this, because I think there's a lot of problem with centralized cloud. Like what we're saying is that we're not necessarily go so far as say, oh, we're gonna like revolutionize everything. That's just too big of a claim. That's in those grand videos that doesn't actually make sense. What we think is that there are type of tasks such as image rendering, such as some of the machine learning simulation type of tasks. Those compute heavy stuff we think can be cheaper by utilizing otherwise idle resources. And there are a lot of things I think a lot of things Ankr cannot do. We're not yet on the storage piece yet. We're likely gonna work with some other company on this stuff. We're more focused on compute as of now. But I think it's very important for a company to focus on one thing at a time and do something like truly make sense. Yeah, that's how this is sort of our mentality, how we started, and how we sort of kept that mentality today.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So as a I guess a newer company to not necessarily crypto, because I feel like a crypto year is at least 5 years in the normal finance or computing or whatever space you want to call it. But in the traditional market, I was wondering how you plan to compete directly eventually with AWS and Azure. They're incredibly well funded and very popular platforms. If you're offering something similar but with a new technology stack and with a very different approach, how did you plan on competing with them and bringing something new to market, but marketing that very differently than the space that they're currently in?
Yeah, three things, right? First is that we trying to actually in our platform is still testing. but it's already like people can test it. We try to make the experience as similar as possible. We right now use a lot of Kubernetes and Docker stuff. We try to make it as similar of a user experience to like the traditional public cloud as possible, so that it is easier for other people who've been familiar with the public cloud to use it. Right, that's the A. And B is that because we are leveraging idle resources that's contributed by data centers or personal devices, so we actually can achieve a cheaper rate compared to public clouds. Because the idea is for a lot of the servers, in a lot of data centers across the globe, across US, about 70% is sitting idle actually. The utilization rate is only usually about 25 to 30%. For example, let's say Intuit, their utilization rate probably is at 90% on April 15 when everybody filed taxes, but today or tomorrow it's like 5%. So we use a lot of those resources so that the price is actually cheaper. And the third thing is that we try to make it as intuitive as possible. For example, right now, if you use AWS to deploy your new website, it still takes a couple of hours. And we try to make that as intuitive as possible, because we're not focusing on, as I mentioned earlier, all tasks. We're sort of focusing on the things that we think make sense for us to do as of now.
Okay. And then who would you say are your largest competitors within crypto? What other projects are you guys looking at and competing for funding against?
Yeah, I mean, I think Golem, exactly are all tremendously great great projects. One is based in France, the other is based in Poland. We've also looked at their technology. I think they've done a great job in terms of the evolution of their solution. I think at the end of the day, it's about go to market. I don't think the distributed compute network at this moment of time is a red sea market. We say it's still a blue sea market, meaning that it's not technically like I'm competing with Golem because we're trying to win the same client. The market is so big and so new that we don't actually see us and them being competitors. We actually love to work with all of the other distributed compute companies in the space. I think notably Golem, iExact, Sonam. I think everybody is trying to work on this similar vision. Everybody have a bit of a different tech stack or architecture. I think honestly at this moment in time it's like not a great idea to talk about like how our architecture is like so much superior. That's not just like the realistic way to do it. It's almost like saying, WhatsApp's architecture is so much better than Messenger's architecture. Doesn't make sense, right? I think in right now all the companies in the space should be and are looking to work on sort of more product stage stuff instead of just vision or architecture or white paper, whatever, right? I think my prediction is that whether it's us, whether it's iExact or or Golem, everybody's gonna be able to sort of solve this problem with a little different of architecture, a little different approach. In the end, it's going to be about the user experience, how we are be able to push for the adoption, and I think that should be the focus right now. Yeah.
Okay. Can we talk just a little bit about marketing? I'm curious what you guys have lined up for 2019.
Yeah. So for 2019, there are three focus. The first focus is that at the end of the day, Ankr, the token, is a very important part of the ecosystem. It's sort of the payment medium. So we are striving to get Ankr listed on multiple exchanges and more exchanges across the globe, so achieves better adoption. The second is that we definitely looking to acquire more contributors or users of our platform, because it's a two-sided market, right? It's almost like you need to have people who list their houses on Airbnb, and you need to have people who actually rent those Airbnbs. Now the thing is, we study closely so the model of the two-sided market, whether it's Uber, Airbnb, whatever. What we found is that we need to first build out the supply side, which is something we are very actively doing now. We're working with Telefonica, with DigitalOcean, with other large-scale data centers who have any idle resources, to participate in the network. I'm also traveling Asia to get some partner, basically supplier of computing resources on board first, right? So it's almost like if on Airbnb there's like no listings, you're not gonna actually use it, right? So we're first on the first half, especially we're looking to build out a very solid and strong supply side, and we've been already working with 3-4 companies on actually the user side. There are 2 image rendering company and 1 video compression company we're currently working with, having them try out our platform and use it, and I think that's so the roadmap, and we want to do it truly globally, because a very big benefit of this distributed compute platforms feature is that you can get powered by data centers that's actually close to you, or contributors that's close to you. This is very important because let's say you're in, let's say, Vietnam, right? And a lot of people in Asia use Alibaba Cloud, but in Vietnam it's not that great, honestly. Powered, if it's powered by a localized data center or contributor, it actually can be cheaper, faster, and better. And that's how we think about how we can grow, and the future plan. Very excited about it.
Okay. That's super interesting. So, does that mean that, would you say that the majority of data is expected to come from data centers and not from individual users, or do you see more of a focus on sort of a peer-to-peer model?
Yeah. So, the way we think about it is, first of all, it's not like the data. It's more like the compute power. As I mentioned earlier, we are right now more focusing on the compute part. The users are more going to be like not the people who want to store the data there, right? Are more, let's say you have a film, right? You want to render it. There's a lot of compute in that, but you don't necessarily need to have your files stored there, right? Obviously, in the future, we're looking to work with other company on that part, but right now we are only mainly focused on the compute part. So, in the to your question, is it going to be more like data centers or like just peer-to-peer? My answer is that we allow both, but from a very realistic standpoint, we actually made this company decision is that we are going to try to work with a lot more large-scale companies and data centers, because we did do like a test version in last October. About 600 people downloaded it and were contributing from their own computer. But from the back end, what we think is that the supply side is truly not that big, and there's a lot of stability problems. It's scalable certainly in the future, but right now we see contributors coming from the data center side across the globe on with more stable and stronger supply. Probably make more sense at this year of age.
Well, those customers or those users are a lot more dedicated to, I guess, not only measuring their own computing power, but also sharing the excess computing power that's not being used, as opposed to, somebody on their laptop at home who's, maybe watching a Netflix video, but maybe working on Photoshop, and they might have, very little processing power to offer. I imagine.
Yeah, and another important thing is about the whole incentive thing, right? Let's say if if I tell you, okay, you can contribute your computing power, today, tomorrow, every day at night, and you get $5 or like a couple bucks a day, right? Would you really do it? Like some people do it, right? Like honestly, some people do it, but a lot of people won't, right? But the incentive model is entirely different for, let's say, a tech company, a large tech company. It sort of overplanned it, which is almost like 80% of them overplanned it, and they have like more than 80% of servers sitting idle day to day. That's a big pressure on their income statement. It's sunk cost anyways, right? You paid it, you cannot really fire sale it. We've seen that company fire sale their data centers are just not doing that great. It's like $500 on maybe a couple $1,000, right? It's not great to sort of cheap sell it. So they've got more pressure and they've got more incentive to actually be part of the network, and that's what we found out after talking to a lot of companies.
Okay. Do you have a rough idea of what the economics might look like for a user, especially if we're talking about a data center? Is there any kind of rough measurement of what the payout might look like someday?
Yeah. So with certain tasks, with more specific, compute heavy tasks, we're looking at a 40% reduction in terms of price when they compare to AWS of the world. So it's cheaper, right? And we would probably just especially in the beginning, we won't really charge anything. The people who are able to contribute their computing resources, or basically do work for whoever is letting them to do the work, will essentially get the payment. The reason it's cheaper is because the pricing is the pricing model is kind of different, right? Like it's almost like if you are a taxi company, you bought the cars because you want to give people rides, right? So that's how you price for taxis. But if your car was not initially bought for the purpose of taxi driving, you can actually make the price a lot lower, right? Because this is sunk cost already, right? And that's the same thing for all those data centers. And so I can actually I cannot show it on the screen right now. So basically, a very simple example is, let's say one server, let's say it cost let's say depreciation a month is $50, right? And the power to power it, let's say it's like $30, right, which is $80, right? That server, if you rent it on Amazon, it's going to cost you $200. But basically, if you do it yourself, it's going to be $80 theoretically.
That's a steep
right?
markup.
Yeah, and well, obviously, I would still use the AWS because it's just a better user experience, and $80 to $200, and it saves me all the trouble of like getting the server, putting it somewhere, and all that, right? Like that's why that's truly the reason why people are all using the cloud, right? But what we are able to do is essentially getting all those $80 sort of resources and sort of bundle them together and make it as intuitive, as simple to use as AWS, and sell it to whoever needs it at like $150 or $120, and whoever is having those idle servers makes money, and they're gonna have less of a sort of eager of the profit compared to Amazon, because there's a lot of human capital in public cloud, which in our model is kind of negligible, and that's how the economics work.
Okay. All right. Thank you for explaining that. Hey, just a heads up, everybody, we're going to actually switch to community questions, I would say in about 5 minutes. I just have maybe one or two more questions for you, Ryan. So like logistically speaking, I'm just thinking about how tasks might be split up, so if let's take SETI at home, for example. if a radio wave is being analyzed, that's not going to be analyzed by one computer. And especially if we're talking about enterprise users, both on the supply and the demand side, hypothetically, then there are going to be really large tasks that need to be accomplished. So what I'm wondering is, how logistically does a task get split up? Like, is that, you know, um, being broken into a certain number of parts based on an algorithm? And how is that assigned to however many users are on the platform? Is there, a portion of users that are waiting for open tasks? What might that look like?
Oh yeah, I mean, we get asked this question a lot, but the reality is, even if you use AWS or Microsoft Azure, you technically breaks up the task yourself as well. um, to the question, regarding, like study at home, like right now it doesn't just like analyze radio, stuff. Doesn't just it actually analyzes a lot of different stuff, lots of different scientific projects, not just search for aliens. It is called search for extraterrestrial intelligence at home. But right now, it's truly like a platform for all kinds of general scientific researchers. Usually, people who need the task be done, split up the task themselves. Even if you use AWS, Azure, you likely kind of do that yourself. And we're obviously trying to provide a very intuitive way or very intuitive user experience to whoever is using it. Basically, as of now, we use a lot of Kubernetes and container stuff. Basically, you need to putting everything in like a Docker image. So that's how you do it. Yeah.
Okay. And then last question for me, what developments are you excited to see just in general, not just from Ankr, but, in crypto in general, in 2019? What kind of developments are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I think, you know, the way I look at it is that, obviously I'm in the space and I think there's a huge potential for the space. But obviously we've just, experienced a sort of massive deleveraging, of the space. And every single coin goes down, and every company kind of suffer because, frankly, most of the crypto company raise money in Ethereum or Bitcoin. Some liquidate more, some liquidate less. You know, it's like you're super duper like correlated to the market trend, in terms of crypto companies in the space, which was quite challenging for a lot of people, right? Now, the way we think about it is that it's almost like 2000 again. Back in 2000, there's like all kinds of the dot-com companies. You just got .com, you raise money, you go to public, you go on NASDAQ, rings the bell on NASDAQ. It's crazy, right?
Right.
Now, this kind of same thing, honestly, with crypto boom in 2018, 2017. You got a white paper. That's why, honestly, we are very against talking about this stuff anymore. It's like right now, I think it's been more than half a year, more than 9 months into the like actual development. The product is actually what matters, not your roadmap, blueprint, white paper. That stuff doesn't work anymore, right? How we think about it is that it's actually a very natural, almost inevitable, repetition of history, just like 2000. Obviously, the space have massive, tremendous, future. But in the beginning, people always, let me put it this way, people always think things highly for the next year. People always overestimate things happening in next 1 year, but underestimate something for the next 10 years, right?
Sure.
If you look at, let's say, NASDAQ 2000, it crashed down, and people are obviously undervaluing a lot of stuff for the next 10, 15 years. Even Amazon back then dropped down for like 95%. Obviously, right now is one of the largest company in the world. Now, same thing with crypto, right? I think we are in the stage that it is as early, but it's a real thing. It's a real topic. It's a real field. has huge, massive, huge potential. And we think from now on, the market should grow sort of steadily, slowly upward. I think it's just my personal opinion, not financial advice. I think we've bottomed out already. People always joke about this stuff. The buying point is always in the past. I think we've seen that already. I don't see a $2,000 Bitcoin. I think we are in the slowly recovering space, and the space only recovers. The price only recovers when companies who behind the scene are working their ass off and truly building the revolutionary technologies. And it's same thing with 2000. There are a lot of companies who are just having a .com, you crash, didn't end up well, sort of went nowhere. And but there are a lot of companies sort of weather through the hard time and stay in the space and work hard and become massive companies, companies everybody in the world use. And I see that in the crypto space as well.
Yeah, for every pets.com, there's an Amazon. And don't worry about the disclaimer. I mean, we put a disclaimer at the front of every video. Trust me, I don't want anything that I say here, taken as financial advice either. So we got you, Ryan. Don't worry. Well, hey, let's open it up to questions from the community. I think we have had enough from me. Let's open it up to Tomer Rickley, I hope I'm saying that right, wants to know, how do you feel about the main competitors, not in the centralized space, but in the decentralized space? I know we talked about Golem a little bit, but are there any other competitors? And how do you see them?
Yeah, first of all, once again, I don't see them as competitors. It's a blue sea market, not a red sea yet. So we more see potential collaboration opportunities. I mean, mention some names: Golem, iExec, Sunum, Definity, but that's more like a public blockchain project. There's a lot of people in the space, but there's like more decentralized storage companies. Obviously, like Filecoin, those are like Filecoin, like SIA. We generally see everybody in the space as potential partners or people or company we can work with, not necessarily as competitor, because nobody is really at the point of like need to compete with each other yet.
Makes sense. Next up, Disco Jim. I don't really understand how the consensus algorithm works. Could you explain that a bit? I believe it's called proof of useful work. Yeah.
So, basically what it is that the idea is, we use trusted execution environment, basically acting as sort of a validator or like monitor. Let's say, how many times your CPU, how many times is the CPU instruction have done over the last, let's say 1 minute or 2 minutes, right? And trusted execution environments, they are somewhat where we put the trust. A lot of people don't agree with it. People argue about it. People say, oh, isn't that you kind of believe in Intel or believe in NVIDIA or believe in whoever is building it? But we just think right now it is a good and efficient solution, a way to do it. And it is a piece of hardware that even, let's say, Intel cannot really touch it and or sort of figuring out what's going on inside, right? And that's basically the core idea of this consensus mechanism.
Okay, and that's the enclave environment, the SDX.
Yep, exactly.
Got it. Next up, Tom Rickley wants to know, they're saying there are rumors out there that Telefonica and DigitalOcean partnerships are exaggerated. And they're wondering if you could comment on what those partnerships entail.
Yeah, I mean, what it is that they are really sort of just supplier of the computing side. It's not like this entire company is all using Ankr, or like we didn't say that either, right? They are the supplier of Ankr's compute network. They do supply compute resources, and we're right now doing integrations with Telefonica people. CEO is actually going to travel to Brazil early April. We're going to host a meetup with Telefonica guys, in Brazil. Something we're very excited about, because we are working with their center in Brazil and Chile, by Telefonica, getting some of the idle resources there, put that into work. Same thing with DigitalOcean. Even DigitalOcean, a big public cloud company right now, they still have stuff that's idle, and we're essentially a reseller for that resources, and it make business sense for them. Like the thing is, we are actually very honest and genuine about all the partnerships and stuff. I know a lot of people in the space, a lot of companies in the space, just like hit up another company, say, "Oh, can we just be partner? Can we just write an MOU?" That's not the way we do it. And we don't misinform people. I think this is a big step, but honestly, I think both two collaborations are a very big step in the development, in the progress of Ankr. But is it like every single Telefonica phone in the future is going to have Ankr in it? No, obviously not. But we still think this is a pretty big progress for us.
Awesome. Well, listen, last up, this is our last question from the community. Squidbox, guys, your names are incredible. Squidbox wants to know what the next major achievement for Ankr is after the mainnet has launched.
Yeah, so I think first of all, we've already been very actively testing out our platform, getting more suppliers on board. I think the next major step is getting more people to actually use it. So we will actually roll out a big incentive program, most likely in the form of like airdrop for people who actually use it, who actually want to use it, because it's almost like, let's say, Airbnb give out coupon for people to try out living in other people's space. That's something similar that we will roll out in the next several months. This is sort of a preview. We definitely would love to have more companies, to try it out. In the beginning, free. Like I cannot expect a company starting to use Ankr service from day one and just go on exchange, buy some coins and use it. That's not gonna be how it would work. I think there's a lot of the personal sort of business sales type of conversation going on, and we in the beginning we need to give them some coins for free, so they can try it out, and obviously later on when they sort of got hooked on our service, like the intuitive experience, like the cheaper price, they're gonna from then on actually buy the coins on the exchanges and just use it themselves.
Okay, well, Ryan, that's all we have for you. Listen, I just wanted to thank you again, for sitting down and doing this with us. Is there anything that we didn't cover, or are there any channels that you want to let us know about? Your Telegram, your Twitter account, like anything, just let us know.
Yeah, and definitely stay tuned to our Telegram announcement channel, on our Telegram chat, our Twitter. Our main way of form of communicating with community is Twitter, and the announcement channel. The announcement channel is literally on my phone, so that's probably the best, fastest, most accurate. Very, very, my pleasure to be on this, AMA today.
Likewise, Ryan. Well, thank you again for joining us. Cryptocopia, thank you for tuning in. We do these every week, every Thursday, and on Fridays we announce our next guest. We have an exciting one planned for you next week, so stay tuned. You can follow us on Twitter at crypto_copia, where we'll make the announcement, and you can subscribe just below this window. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to get the notification that we're going live and doing our next AMA. because there's definitely more to come. Ryan, thank you again one last time. And, we will, be following closely what you all are up to. Take care. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. Pleasure.
All right. Bye.